Good morning, good afternoon, or good night, wherever the heck you are out in Cyberland. This is Cyberspecialist Mr. Robert Speciale. I hope everybody's doing well. Today, as I record this, it is May 24th, 2026, and we're going to do something different. This is the first video that I'm going to be making that will go in a playlist where I do the news, where we're going to talk about some articles that I just found interesting or just popped up as I did searching around or whatever to talk about what's the latest in cyber, some AI news, and then a little bit of PC gaming news. So I hope you enjoy, and let's get to it. All right, so our first story for today, we have Microsoft Defender vulnerabilities, which have been loosened out into the wild. Apparently, hackers have been able to exploit two different CVEs. The numbers are listed there on the screen. And the more severe flaw of the two apparently allows threat actors to escalate privileges after they have regular or normal access to a system. CISA has ordered federal agencies to patch the flaws immediately. And obviously, if you see any patches for that in Windows, to make sure you take care of that right away. You don't want Microsoft Defender getting exploited on your PC at home. It's pretty much the best and cheapest way to deploy antivirus software and all that other fun stuff. It's not the best in the world, and I think in the modern age, we're going to need another thing. We're going to need something else to protect desktop PCs, I feel like, in the next 2 to 3 years, especially as AI leaves its mark on creating malware, right? I think that's going to be a little bit of a deal there as we move forward over the next couple of years. So, Microsoft Defender got a couple of vulnerabilities. Make sure you threaten that you lock that down. Our next article is all about how much money the tech giants are spending. So the tech giants are projected to spend about $700 billion. That's billion with a B, on AI infrastructure. Amazon, Google, Meta, and Microsoft are all on track to spend an estimated combined $700 billion on AI data centers. The boom is moving past just microchips, kind of like NVIDIA, and is heavily fueling physical infrastructure. Massive power grid upgrades, you're talking about fiber optics, cooling systems, local construction, potentially generating trillions in broader economic activity. What I found interesting about this article is really, when you think about it, there is a lot of pushback about these big AI data centers. You have a couple that have already been banned, apparently, from one article that came across my feed on Instagram. You have the controversial one out in Utah, 40,000 square miles for an AI data center. And that has a lot of buffer space for wildlife and conservation, preservation, and everything. But then I'm also hearing that data center will create enough heat to elevate the temperature in the general area by several degrees. So I don't know, man. I don't know where I sit with all this. I mean, I'll tell you where I sit with all this. So when you take a look at artificial intelligence as it's been marketed to us from the media, the tech media, from companies like NVIDIA and Google and everything, that they're all about agentic AI use and building agents and having workflows and automations and really focusing on that and moving past the day-to-day use of just using AI as a chatbot. Of course, I love the technology. Everything I do with this channel is AI created, including these little PowerPoints that are active and all that stuff that I'm using. But you have to ask at what cost. And what I think is going on, in my opinion, is we are leveraging old technology to power the new technology. And what I mean by that is these AI data centers are running so hot and killing the environment around them. They're messing up with the water and the whole 9 yards. Why? Because of cooling, right? Cooling is one of the biggest things that we are really going to have to take serious and think about how to overcome, because there has to be an engineering solution to this issue. So really what I'm talking about here is we are stuck in a world of technology that uses electrical impulses to do the ones and zeros. And those electrical impulses, when ramped up to gigahertz speeds in our CPUs and GPUs and RAM speaking to the motherboard and all that other fun stuff, generates heat. That's why you see everybody's gaming PCs, even the one that's right here next to me, has a cooling solution. I use air cooling. Some people use liquid AIOs. So in your PC, your job is to try and keep your stuff running as cool as possible so that you can max out its potential, so you can get the best FPS in your video gaming and all this stuff. Now scale that to an AI data center. All these AI companies really need to start investing not just in designing chips and not just making circuit boards, and you have to have something new. I think that's going to be photonics. If we can switch from electrical impulses to light, you would create a situation where the generation of chips that photonics creates, the sky's the limit. You can have chips that operate in terahertz, in petahertz, not just gigahertz, right? With hardly any heat. Obviously light still generates heat, but not in the same way that electrical impulses on silicon-based circuit boards use. So we're stuck in a scenario where the boom of AI affecting businesses at every level, large businesses, medium-sized, large and small businesses, and everything, that this boom, this push to create a new line of business, because that's what these companies are doing, right? This is just another line of business for them. Now, when you talk about PC gaming, by the way, PC gaming gets cannibalized so that they can use this line of business. And I'm not going to go into that now. Maybe I'll do that in another segment. But this is a new line of business for them. But we're applying the older technology to push that business forward. And new power technologies need to happen before we completely destroy the environment. And I know I've seen a couple of posts as well, probably politically motivated. So I'm not going to sit here and say that it's something that I agree with, or I'm not going to weigh in one way or the other. I'm going to try and keep this very neutral. But, funny how there isn't a problem with the environment now that we need data centers all over the place, right? Before, companies were on the hook and companies would sit there and say, we're eco-friendly and we do this, we do that. Now it's like we need a data center that can generate more electricity than the island of Manhattan every hour. And like crazy stuff like that. So, yeah, we need better power technology and we need better computing technology. We need to make it so that our chips, and I know quantum computing, may be a solution in some way, but that I think is too far away to do at scale the way that we're talking about doing it now. Photonics. That's my belief. That's what I think, at least anyway. I could be right, I could be wrong, I don't know. But it would also be really nice if fusion became a thing right around now. Like, our technologies are surpassing our ability to power them. Meanwhile, we have this thing that always seems like it's 10 years away, right? And that's fusion technology. And if we had fusion, we wouldn't have these issues either. Or at least they wouldn't be as pronounced as they feel like there is right now. So these tech companies, if they really want to make the community business partners and say, hey, we're going to bring a lot of jobs to your area, you can't have them destroy the environment around those jobs for the sake of doing it and for the sake of pushing AI and for the sake of moving all this money around so that they can make more money. You have to make the community business partners, but you also have to innovate new technologies. And that's going to have to happen sooner or later, because we can't have these situations where they want to build a data center and they're going to suck all the water out of Lake Mead. That's ridiculous. We can't do that. So that's my take on it, at least anyway. But there you go with the news article. Tech giants are projected to spend, and another thing too, I don't know. I need to go back into the article. I forgot. I think I got this off of, I forgot where I got it off of Google, but it was a website under the Google search that I did. One of the things that I'd be interested in seeing, right? So if they're spending $700 billion, how much of that $700 billion is being spent back into local governments to improve infrastructure, right? If they're talking about updating our power grid, that's not necessarily a bad thing. Let private industry pay their share to make the power grid better so that we are not relying on local, state, and federal governments to do it. That could be something that could be a good thing out of this as well. And of course, all the jobs are always a good thing. If there's trillions of dollars of broader economic activity, you know how many electricians are going to be making money building these AI data centers? Finding good electricians to do all that, that's going to be good for them. Okay? So there are good things here, but you got to weigh the good with the bad and then say, where does the solution lie? And I was just talking about this with my students, even at graduation last night, a couple of the seniors that we were talking before we had to walk in graduation. And we were saying, we need to find a way to make these power systems that are going to push AI much more efficient and better. And so that's my opinion on all that. All right. Meanwhile, in California, Governor Gavin Newsom has made an executive order to protect workers from AI disruption. It's his first of its kind executive order that's aimed at California's workforce and small businesses for impending economic disruption because of the deployment of AI. The order directs state agencies to track AI's impact on employment and create safety nets for displaced workers. It is also designed to ensure that financial gains of AI adoption are shared with everyday workers. Now, look, once again, I don't like getting political. I want to stay down the middle with this stuff, but we got to take a look at a few things. First of all, when the government gets involved, very rarely does it work out the way that the government intended. Okay? So while I am all for something like this in a certain way, in a certain level, when I see designed to ensure the financial gains of AI adoption are shared with everyday workers, that screams to me that they're trying to tell companies how to spend their money. And I don't know that a government should or could really do that. Now, California is unique. They have a lot of laws that skew one direction from a political standpoint. Maybe you believe in all that. Maybe you don't. I'll leave that up to you. My thing is this. Are we heading down the road of universal basic income? Is that going to be a thing, right? Because one of the things that, and it's not part of this article, but let's talk about it real quick, right? One of the things that you're seeing is that Microsoft lays off, thousands of workers. Well, those workers are also the people that buy your products. So sooner or later, you're going to get to a point where so many people get laid off, especially in the tech sector, that they can't spend money in the economy now. And then that hurts the economy. It hurts it too much. Now, I'm not saying, when you have technological innovation at the level and scale that AI is currently doing right now, it's freaking scary, first of all, right? But at the same time, this is the same thing that's been going on since the Industrial Revolution began. And yes, you're going to sit here and say, well, we are going to have people's jobs go away. I think Jeff Bezos put it perfectly when he quoted in an interview he just did within the last week and a half or so, that people are not going to lose their jobs to AI. People are going to lose their jobs to people who know how to leverage AI. And I think that's a very important distinction that I think media outlets and sometimes politicians don't understand and don't get. Should there be protections? Maybe. Yes. Yes, I think, right? But you don't want to start telling businesses how to spend their money either. And in my opinion, at least anyway. So what do we do about this? Is it universal basic income? I don't know. I really wish Gene Roddenberry would have kind of codified the economic structure of the United Federation of Planets in the Star Trek series, because, they don't have an economy and there is no money in the future and all that. How do we get to that? And if it works so well, how did it work? Why does it work that well? And how did we get to that point? And then we wouldn't have these problems. So sometimes I wish that would happen, but I don't know. So we're really looking down the barrel of how do we protect workers from job loss? But I think part of that is also, how do you retrain people? We have this thing right now where we have a certain percentage of the workforce is not even technological to begin with, and don't believe in technology, don't like technology, and don't know how to use technology at a very high level. So is there any opportunity to do some skill retraining, to take employees and give them skill sets that match better with what the economy needs? I always tell this story. I'm going to go through this real quick. Whenever I talk to people about AI, and they go, oh, we're going to lose our jobs, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. And I said, well, some jobs need to be lost, okay? And I'm going to give you this example. Think about the last time you, as you're watching this video, made a phone call, right? And if you've made a phone call in the last couple of years or whatever it is, right? But say you made a phone call like last week. When you made the call, some person in a phone operator room with a really big aux cable did not connect one line and then connect another to switch your call, right? Everything's all done by technology, and it has been so since like the 60s, right? We don't have telephone operators like that anymore. That job was taken over by technology, and those people lost those jobs, because sometimes jobs need to be lost. But that doesn't mean that those people stop working. Then maybe they went and got different jobs. Maybe they were retrained by the companies, the telephone companies, to do different things, right? But my point is that there's always going to be a victim. But the victim only exists when that person doesn't take the initiative to learn new skills. Because you know what? The economy changes over time. What the American economy needs now in 2026 is not what the economy needed in 1986. And it's not what the economy needed in 1956. And it's not what the economy needed in 1776. Okay? So, we have that, right? The economy is not some static thing. It moves with innovation. It moves with products. It moves with how companies make things and do things. So we definitely need to address it. I don't think it's very fair for people to lose their jobs and then all of a sudden companies try and deploy AI and they don't know what they're doing. I think the pace of innovation is a real problem too. Every time I turn around, I made this complaint in one of my other videos. Every time I turn around, Claude is coming out with a new feature. Google Gemini had a new stuff that's every week there's a new announcement for something. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but the pace of it is really, really fast. And should it, you can't control how a company innovates, but companies are making decisions and then things change like a week or two later, but that's after they let go thousands of employees. And it's causing a problem. It is causing a problem. I don't think companies really know. They just hear like, oh, we can have AI agents do this. Make the agents do that. And you have some person making a decision and they themselves might not be well versed in technology. So it's a really wacky thing. And I hope that over time things start to settle a little bit, where even if the pace of innovation continues, what we roll out and how we use it and how we educate ourselves how to use this stuff. Anthropic, I felt, has done a really good job in the education piece, in teaching. Google does a decent job too. I don't see how OpenAI is doing a lot of stuff with it, but maybe I just haven't researched it. But in particular, in my mind, Google and Anthropic have done a very good job in providing a lot of free or low-cost resources to learn how to use their tools. A lot of people say, well, just make an agent and have it do something. Well, no, sit down and read through the Anthropic's documentation, take some of their online free courses and say, how do I make an agent? How do I deploy an agent? How do I use an agent? How do I make the agent do what I need it to do? And then sit there and really do a deep dive into what your business processes are and where are the opportunities that technology can make things better. And that could just be using AI to make an automation that the automation itself doesn't have AI built into it. I think that's a factor as well. So I don't know. I'm going off on a tangent here, but the bottom line is this. There needs to be protections in place. Whether state and local governments should be providing that protection, I would question. And I certainly don't think a government should tell a business how to make their money. That's why we have private business. That's why we're a capitalistic society. But at the same time, I think we do need to do a better job in the retraining and the growing of the people that power our economy. And then having said that, I think the universal basic income thing is a very fascinating discussion. I don't know how well it would work here in America. I don't know how you do that and not make it so that people just rely on that and not go to work, because that would be bad too. So you have to really kind of think deeply at how we deployed that, I guess. But that's it for this article. Okay, something a little more fun now. Epic Games has announced the Unreal Engine 6. They debuted it, I think yesterday, the day before, and it's going to be debuted with the next version of Rocket League. Rocket League apparently has been stuck on Unreal Engine 3 for the longest time, but Epic Games has decided to debut the new engine with Rocket League, which is kind of a curious choice for them, given the fact that you have Fortnite, which is kind of like infinity times bigger in terms of the user community than Rocket League. But at the same time, Fortnite's had a lot of struggles. So maybe they're just taking their time, and maybe they haven't announced that they are working behind the scenes to get Unreal Engine up and running for Fortnite, and it's still in development. That's what I kind of think. So debuting with Rocket League is an interesting first choice. It will be the first game to transition to this next generation engine, promising massive visual and physics overhaul. Physics stuff I think would be really important for Rocket League, considering it's soccer with race cars, but that would be cool. Another thing I wanted to throw in there that's not really related to Epic Games, but more Unreal Engine 6. Elder Scrolls 6, which is very much in development by Bethesda right now, obviously the sequel to games like Skyrim and Oblivion, is rumored to not use the Unreal Engine in favor of Bethesda's in-house Creation Engine 3. So apparently they have in-house overhauled everything that they learned in Starfield. They have taken and are deploying into Elder Scrolls 6. I am a huge Elder Scrolls fan. I love Oblivion, and I have a very deep love of Skyrim. Skyrim to me is one of the greatest games ever made. Certainly, I think in the discussion, one of the top 10 video games ever made. I think Oblivion's right up there, and I think there's some things about Oblivion that are actually better than Skyrim. That's just me, personal opinion on that, just in terms of gameplay and all. But going with their own internal engine, I think is really interesting. It's probably a cost-saving maneuver too. Instead of paying for licenses for Unreal Engine, they could just make their own software. So that's really kind of cool. Yeah, so we'll see what happens on Unreal Engine 6, and we'll take a look at what the new video games will come out. What's really depressing, and something I want to talk about really quick, though, is hopefully these new games are able to maximize mid-range to low-end gaming PCs, because nobody can really update their PCs right now, mainly because RAM prices and all that other stuff are through the freaking roof. And it's going to be, and I feel like, when you start talking about AI again, right, that companies like NVIDIA have just abandoned the PC gamers. They've abandoned them because that's not their bread and butter. That's not where they make money anymore, right? And they, if you're a stockholder in NVIDIA, it's great. God bless. But, AMD too. They're leaving the gaming behind. And really what happens with that is that the PC gamer community is really what has driven the innovation for building computers. And that's something that's a hobby that a lot of people love. Some people fix cars all day. Some people like doing work around the house. Some people like building gaming computers or building workstation computers or streaming computers, like they want to be a Twitch streamer or whatever. And these big companies with the push for AI products are really just taking away the computing power of the average everyday person. And that's a problem. You're going to have to go pre-built or maybe a laptop. And I'm not saying that there isn't a market for that or a niche for that. I think that's fine. But I don't know, man. A common thread with all these news articles that I've read tonight is, man, this is what technology's doing. And I don't necessarily really love the direction that we've gone. I miss the days of just being able to go to a Micro Center or order parts on through Newegg or whatever and building a gaming PC. That's all I did over COVID, and this is the second iteration of my main gaming PC that's sitting next to me right now while I'm doing this news article. And it's like, I won't be able to upgrade this guy if I really wanted to, or at least afford to do it. So we'll see where that goes. But for now, Unreal Engine 6 is on its way. And that is a wrap for my first attempt at reading the news. I don't know if I did a fantastic job with it, but we'll refine the process as we go along. I really don't, I made this YouTube channel. We're sitting at 93 subscribers as I make this video now on May 24th. And that's fine. That's great. I appreciate everybody who's subscribed to the channel. It seems like the shorts are doing really well, so hopefully I'll make a good number of shorts out of this when I post it and go through it this week. But doing this channel now ahead of one of the main focuses is going to be AP Cybersecurity and making the content for that. But I really want to get into the news and get into talking about cyber AI and all that other, and tech news and PC gaming news and all that stuff. And, I'm using these early videos as much more of a trial and error and get my editing process down right and all that. I think I really need to have a little bit more structured scripts, because I find that I'm just really kind of shooting from the hip, which is part of my personality, which is why I hope some people would enjoy listening. But at the same time, I want it to have a little bit more of a polished feel to it, at least anyway. So maybe the next news I'll have a little bit more of a script or whatever. But hey, I'm trying. But I hope you stuck around to the end, and I really do appreciate you. If you do not follow the channel, please like and subscribe to the 0x feed. We're going to be making videos like this. We're going to be making videos for AP Cybersecurity content for students, and we'll also be making videos for AP Cybersecurity for teachers. I also have a Teachers Pay Teachers store where you can purchase materials to teach AP Cyber. If you're a teacher doing that, I guess a student can buy that too if they wanted. I never really thought about that. I wonder how many students actually buy stuff off of Teachers Pay Teachers to teach themselves stuff. I never thought of that before. I'll have to think about that. So I have that there as well. You can go to www.0x-feed.org and check out our YouTube content. Some news articles are there, as well as a link to our Teachers Pay Teachers home. So I hope you enjoyed this. Hopefully I got a good couple of YouTube shorts out of it. And I will see you in the next one. Till then, take care.